Stoley's got a guy. And he brought us a couple guys. He brought us Ephraim Guevara, was the first guy he brought us. A big part of our 2009 fall team. And the reason we had the fall team was all because of Stoley as well. Stoley was the one who pushed and pushed and pushed for us to play in the fall. And, if it wasn't for him to do that, I'm not sure what the Regletics would be with us right now. Jerry Regletic returned to the team after leaving in 2005. He played in the fall, brought his son out, Jerry the Third. Jerry the Third was our best hitter in that fall league. And even Dan Hajar, he made an appearance in the fall in 2009, eventually joining us a year later on a regular basis. But so that was key. But 2009 also saw Vinny Blando come into the fold, and what a nice guy he was, and a good addition. Saved our bacon once in the 2009 season when a guy on another team threatened to attack us, and he called him a douche nozzle or something along the first base line. I don't even remember what it was exactly, but it was one of those seminal moments that people always will talk about. And of course, there's Oil and Water, Bob Vierling and Mike Mareshko. And I joke when I say that, sometimes they don't see eye to eye, but they're two of my favorite people on earth. And I love having them around. And they're both great team guys. They both keep the bench light and entertaining. And they're decent ball players to boot, too. So it's not like they're just there to provide entertainment. They can also play the game. So we got a lot of good players back in 2009. And bringing back another guy, Anthony Amoroso, returned in 2009. And I remember playing with Anthony in 1997, and when he was our best player on the team, and now here it is 12 years later, I'm convincing him to come out of retirement from a few years and come back and play. And he came back and led the team in hitting again, mostly using his speed. He wasn't a power hitter anymore, but I looked at it and said, you know what? When this team becomes good, he's going to be the leadoff hitter of this team because of his wheels. So. Yeah, 2009 was an interesting year. We didn't make the playoffs. We went 6-12. We didn't even improve, but we brought in some more players who I thought were going to help the team. And then we went 6-8 in the fall against a lot stiffer competition than we thought we were going to play. So that was a pretty impressive run, even though that didn't result in the playoffs. But you could start to see a lot of the gelling taking place, and I think that 2009 was the perfect setup for what came in 2010.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me. I recognize my face. Say you don't care who goes to that kind of place.
2010 brought a renewed focus for Sanfilippo as the GM of Sligo. He knew that for the team to get better, he had to bring in some new blood, but at the same time, wanted to maintain that camaraderie that was developed in 2009. So, he once again took to the internet in search of a wealth of players, enough to create two teams, Sligo Red and Sligo Black.
We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on
Splitting the two teams was a tough thing for me. I didn't think I was going to have that many guys show up, to be honest with you. There was 36 guys, I think, at our first couple of practices, and I couldn't even be there. I was traveling with the Flyers, and I was relying on reports from some of our regular guys, Bob Ford and Rob Motti, and Chip Proctor was chiming in. And I got the sense that of the new guys that we brought in, Jake Bachman was going to be a guy that I was going to bring on board. We needed an infielder who could play multiple positions. And third base was his primary position, but he played ended up playing second mostly for us. Could also play shortstop. It was a huge addition for us. And Mark Golling, the funny thing is he originally wasn't going to come out, and then all of a sudden showed up at a practice, and nobody knew who he was. We had talked over the phone, but I wasn't there, and nobody knew who he was. And all of a sudden, Rob Motti calls me up. I'm in some city somewhere with the Flyers and says, we need Mark Golling on Sligo Red. And I was like, Mark Golling? What was he doing there? He wasn't. You sure got the right name? He's like, yeah, Mark Golling. Guy hits the ball into the trees. I took his word for it and said, okay, fine. And boy, Mark was a godsend. I mean, what we needed on this team was exactly what Mark and Jake brought to the table. They were two of the big reasons why Sligo Red had such a big turnaround this year. On Sligo Black, boy, they got a couple of nice players, and Jeff Banducci and Paul Sinkus. Those guys came in. Paul came in a little bit later than Jeff. Jeff was hurt at the beginning of the year. He was trying to play through a back injury that he suffered in a car accident just before the start of the season. And by the time the year had ended and he was playing for us in the fall on the combined team, he was just ripping the ball, and he could play anywhere in the outfield, second base, multifaceted. Paul Sinkus, he's a guy that can crush the ball as well. He plays first base, right field. He can catch. And just two really, really solid guys. And then in the fall, we picked up guys like Brian Dunphy and Brian Musmano. The two Bryans were huge additions to that team. So we really got lucky. I mean, in the past, we didn't have that luck, but really got lucky this time around. After trading several emails and phone calls with players to discuss their roles in Sligo softball, Sanfilippo split the team up into 16 players on Sligo Red and 17 players on Sligo Black. The GM then picked up a second sponsor, getting last-minute help from Dan Dignan at D-Squared Construction. And even though he knew he was going to coach the Red team, he knew he needed a coach for Black. So he tapped old friends and teammates Anthony DiTrolio and Mark Bruno to run the Black squad. Losing them, along with longtime mate Bruce Culp, was going to be tough, but Sanfilippo knew that for the long-term health of the Black team, it was in the best interest and a decision that had to be made. Afterward, Sanfilippo was focused mostly on getting the Red team ready to make a long playoff run, and he felt that he had put together a team that was just the right group for that. However, the season didn't quite start out as Sanfilippo had planned. As a matter of fact, it was Black, who was playing in the Millennium League D Division, that won the first game, while Red, who was in the B Division, went without a win in the first week of the season. Red dropped their first two games that season to Duffer's Pub, and then after a comfortable win in its first game against Millmont Republican Club in the second week, a slew of errors cost Red, and they were suddenly 1-3. It was not the start the team was looking for. In week 3, with several key players missing, Sligo was on the brink of plummeting toward the bottom of the standings. When suddenly, a higher power, or was it good luck, intervened.
Last of the 8th inning here at Lenai Park, and Sligo Red is going to have to dig deep to pull this one out. They coughed up a 5-run lead in the 7th, and now find themselves trailing by a run here in the extra frame. Jake Bachman and Jerry Regletic started the inning with a pair of hits, but a flyout by John Snyder that turned into a double play when pinch runner Rob Motti was gunned down at third has left Red 1 out away from falling to just 1-4 this season. Andy Schwartz steps to the plate, and he's their last chance. He's 0 for 3 for the game and is looking to break through. Regletic on first, Red trailing Mose by a run, and here's the pitch. Schwartz pops it up a mile high. This should be the ball game. Kevin Kessler is under it, and he drops the ball. Kessler drops the ball. Regletic makes it to third. Schwartz slides into second, and the throw will not be in time. Sligo has new life. Just an unbelievable set of circumstances there. Instead of losing, Sligo now has the tying and winning runs in scoring position. Still, with 2 away, it all comes down to the kid, rookie Jerry Regletic III. The younger Regletic has struggled, going 2 for 13 to start the season, and he's 0 for 3 today. He stands in, here's the pitch, base hit up the middle. Regletic scores the tying run. Third base coach Bob Ford is waving Schwartz. Here comes the throw from center field, and it's way offline. Schwartz scores, and Sligo Red wins in dramatic fashion. 10-9. Wow, what a finish.
A 9-game winning streak. Can you believe it? A 9-game winning. We never won more than 6 games in a season, and here we were winning 9 straight games. And it started with a dropped pop-up. It's amazing to me what triggers something like that. And I went back and looked through the book and to look at some of those games. and I was reminded that of a game that I wasn't even at. I was in Chicago, the Stanley Cup Finals, and I get a phone call from the bar from an excited Al Heinley that's screaming at me like, we were down 15-0 and came back and won the game. And I thought he was exaggerating, but it was true. Down 15-0, and the team came back and we scored 16 unanswered runs and won 16-15. Jerry Regletic III had a two-run triple in the last inning to tie the game, and then Mike Trout drove him home with the winning run. And, it's a game like that where I'm not there, I'm not involved, I'm not giving any of the rah-rah speeches, where these guys were able to come together and rally around themselves and pull off a big win like that to keep the winning streak going. That's when you know that you have what it takes to be a really good team, when they can do that like that. And that was a real impressive win, and one that made me think, you know what, we are a contending team this year. We are a championship caliber team.
Unfortunately, the winning streak ended. But Sligo did win its final 2 games of the season to finish 13-5. By doing so, they became the first team in Millennium League history from one of the 2 competitive divisions to improve their record by at least 7 wins from one season to the next. Yet, despite going 13-5, Sligo didn't win their division. However, they did earn the number 2 seed, which was good enough for a first-round bye. That gave them an automatic berth into the semifinals against the hated Timeout Tavern. It was time to put the game faces on.
Bottom of the third, game 1 of the semifinals. Sligo has the bases loaded and a 3-run lead. As cleanup hitting backstop, Mark Golling steps to the plate. Golling got a single and scored the first Sligo run of the game in his first at-bat. Amoroso steps off third. Bonelli at second, Motti at first. And here's the pitch. Swing and a long fly ball deep right center field. Golling has put that one into the trees. A grand slam home run for Mark Golling. Golling goes deep and has blown this game wide open. Sligo leads 8-1. What a blast from Golling.
Timeout Tavern. Boy, there's never been a team that I wanted to beat more in my life than those guys. They may be the most miserable bunch of miscreant cretins on the face of the planet. They just make your skin crawl by the way that they conduct themselves on a softball field of all places. And, so we had played them in the regular season and we split, and it was an interesting dichotomy at that point. Because